On June 16th, a 28-year-old man goes live on Facebook holding a pistol. By the following morning, he is dead, shot by police. Those chaotic 24 hours have left an entire state asking what really happened to Bharat Bhushan Tiwari. To understand why this case is tearing Bihar apart, you have to look at who Bharat actually was. He didn't have a criminal record. He wasn't in a local gang. He was a BSc student who had just filed paperwork to open an electric bike showroom in his village. But Bharat was angry. Look at the local infrastructure surrounding his home. The roads were deeply potholed, muddy, and practically impassable. Add to that the devastating reality of recent local floods. Seeing homes entirely submerged underwater compounded a deep sense of systemic abandonment. Frustrated by watching his community struggle, Bharat reached a breaking point. During that June 16th live stream, he waved a homemade pistol at the camera, compared himself to Bhagat Singh, and declared he was fighting a one-man war against a broken system. How does an educated student with zero criminal history, driven by civic anger, end up taking bullets from a police tactical team within hours of a broadcast, instead of simply being arrested? On the morning of June 17th, a heavily armed joint team of the Shahpur Police and the Special Task Force descended on Bharat's village. This diagram breaks down the competing narratives. On the left is the official police claim. They state that Bharat immediately opened fire on the tactical team, discharging 8 to 10 rounds, forcing the officers to return lethal fire in self-defense. But on the right is the family's claim. Eyewitnesses and a second piece of video evidence allegedly show a vastly different story. Bharat is seen discarding his weapon and attempting to surrender to the authorities. This leads to the first major question regarding the police presence that morning. How does a massive, highly trained tactical unit find itself unable to disarm a single student without the encounter turning fatal? Which leads directly to the second question. If eyewitness accounts and video footage confirm he had already thrown down his weapon and raised his hands, why were lethal shots fired at all? When multiple competing accounts of an incident exist, especially those backed by video, the automatic assumption of police self-defense evaporates. It demands a rigorous look at how the government handled its response. The third question exposes a glaring inconsistency at the highest levels of government. Following the shooting, Chief Minister Samrat Chowdhury stated that the Director General of Police had informed him Bharat was mentally disturbed, and the actual plan was to safely hospitalize him. There is a massive disconnect here. The top state official claims the objective is medical intervention, yet the officers on the ground execute a fatal shooting. So were the local police actively defying the chief minister's directives, or is the government retroactively trying to soften the narrative after a botched operation? Then we hit the fourth question, the suspension paradox. Let's follow the logic. If a police unit genuinely acts in self-defense against an active shooter who fired 10 rounds, those officers are typically commended for their bravery. But that didn't happen. Instead, the station house officer of Shahpur and 3 other policemen were officially suspended immediately after the shooting. Punishing officers who are supposedly innocent creates immense doubt. Suspending the team implies that something went terribly wrong on the ground, fracturing the entire self-defense narrative. The fifth and final question deals with standard protocol. Indian law is explicit. If the state knows an individual is suffering from a mental health crisis, the required response is de-escalation and medical treatment. You do not respond with a firing squad. Look at how the system operates at its extremes. The Indian government routinely negotiates the peaceful surrender of hardened insurgents, Naxalites, and organized terrorists, allowing them to hand over their weapons safely to officials. The irony is brutal. A state machinery highly capable of safely disarming organized enemies of the nation somehow found it impossible to afford that same mercy to an isolated, distressed student in his own village. The layered contradictions in Bharat's death elevate this case into a stress test for the integrity of the entire justice system. The Supreme Court is very clear on these matters. Any police encounter resulting in death triggers mandatory guidelines, requiring an independent, magistrate-led investigation to verify the facts. This flowchart illustrates the stakes under the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Under Section 103, which replaces the old murder charge, if forensic evidence shows Bharat had indeed surrendered, the involved officers are no longer shielded by duty. They are facing severe penalties for murder. To find the truth, investigators need 3 absolute baselines: an untampered post-mortem report, precise ballistic testing for firing distance, and a complete mobile footage analysis. A frustrated citizen picking up a gun highlights a systemic failure, but executing that citizen as they attempt to surrender represents the collapse of the rule of law itself. The only way forward is a transparent, court-monitored investigation to reveal exactly what happened that morning.